Hey friends, and welcome to another episode of the Level Up Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Petrinovich, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Kelly Gilster.
Hello, everybody.
How are you doing today, Kelly?
I'm great. We filmed our first wedding of the year, which was absolutely incredible. It was a 3-day wedding. We did Thursday rehearsal dinner, Friday welcome party, and Saturday wedding. And it was a great one to start the year off. I don't know about you, Taylor, but there has been years where the year has started off with maybe not such a portfolio piece, but this one really was a portfolio piece. And I'm so excited because we actually haven't shot a wedding since mid-October. This might be our longest stretch of ever not shooting a wedding, from October to now. And we shot that at the end of February, and now we're in March. So it was great. And then on a personal note, my daughter turned 2 last week, and I can't believe she's already 2, which is wild. So little Sloan, she's such a chatterbox and such a spicy little thing, but we love her so much. What about you, Taylor?
That's so fun. My youngest daughter is the same age as Sloan, and we just love to text back and forth, talking about, kind of these terrible times that we're in. But speaking of birthdays, my middle daughter is turning 6 in just a couple days, and so we're really excited. She is opting to have her birthday at a trampoline park, which is so fun. And I don't know. I love celebrating her. Sometimes I feel like the poor little middle child gets kind of lost in the mix sometimes, but our little Lucy just deserves to be celebrated. So we're really, really excited. I don't have any weddings until June, Kelly. So I think I have you booked. I beat. The last wedding I did was in November. So that'll be oh my God, is that a 8-month stretch with no weddings?
Wow.
That's nuts.
We're pulling you out of retirement, essentially.
That's how it's feeling. But luckily the podcast and all these things keep me busy.
Well, I'm sure that it's going to be like riding a bike. That's how it always is. It's a little bit nerve-wracking when you've gone through that stretch, but then you just hop back on and start pedaling away, and you fall kind of back into your usual routine of all the things. That's how it's always been for us, and that's so fun. I actually love is for birthday parties, we did Chuck E. Cheese for my son's birthday last year, and I'm I think I'm ruined. I feel like I never want to have another party at my house ever again, because it's you come, it's ready for you, you leave, there's no cleanup. You just go home with your presents. It's so fun. And actually, I will say, Sloan, I didn't really have it in me to do a whole birthday. And I feel 2 is still kind of one of those years where you can get away with something smaller. So we just did a family Disney day. Went to Disneyland the day before her birthday, and it was just me, Paul, Micah, and Sloan. And it was just a really fun time. And then she goes to daycare. And so a lot of the parents do parties within the classroom. So I got donut holes and pizza and a little party spread for her to have her party at school the next day.
That's so cute. You guys, Kelly is the luckiest person alive because she lives 15 minutes away from Disneyland. I'm so jealous.
But I never go. It's so funny. We just aren't the biggest Disney people. Taylor would be going all the time. She loves Disneyland.
I would definitely have an annual pass, 100%. I wouldn't classify myself as a Disney adult. I am definitely not. I own 0 Disney merch. There's just it's magical. I just really like to be there and not even go on the rides. I just like to be there.
Yeah, there's magic in the air about it for sure. But it's a good time. I'm a once every 18 months Disneyland person. So I'm due for it. And that was a lot of fun to be able to go and do that. But let's moving away from personal things and into business stuff. We have a boss lady on our podcast today. I call her a boss lady because she just is, and her new headshots are total boss energy. Miranda Rangel with Rosemary Films. Taylor, do you agree with me? She's just the best.
Oh, 100%. I mean, she showed up to her interview in a really great blazer. If you've never watched her podcast on YouTube before, this is the one to catch. She just looked so great and so powerful. And I think there's just something about dressing for the job that you want and for the job that you have. And it just, she emits this energy of like positivity and community over competition and being unstoppable in her business. And I really appreciate that about her. But we don't want to spoil the interview for you guys before you have a chance to listen to it. So hold on one sec because we have one last announcement. Because next week we are doing our free 3-day workshop, The Road to Luxury, from March 12th through the 15th. And we so hope to see you there. If this is your first time tuning into the podcast, or maybe you've just recently found us, like we really pour our hearts and our souls into this workshop. Like we've been literally preparing for it for months, and Kelly and I are so excited to be coaching you all for free over our 3 days together. It's going to be really powerful.
Yeah, just really painting a picture of what is possible and how to, if you're somebody, honestly, right now, if you're somebody who's listening and you know that your business has not yet reached its full potential and you're ready to see some big changes in your business, this workshop is for you. So please reserve your seat. You can register for free. Again, it's 3 days of coaching from myself and Taylor, and it's pretty great, you guys. This is our Super Bowl, honestly. So come to the Super Bowl. Be on our team for the Super Bowl.
The Level Up Super Bowl.
Yes. So go to thelevelupco.com/workshop, and we hope to see you there.
This is the Level Up Podcast. I'm Taylor Petrinovich.
And I'm Kelly Gilster of 618 Studios.
And we are on a mission to help wedding filmmakers and photographers level up their businesses so you can make more and work less.
We want to help you confidently take your business from mainstream to luxury, and it all starts right here.
Well, Miranda, we are so excited to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This feels like a full circle moment because I found you guys through your podcast and now I get to be on it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, listen long enough and maybe you'll become a guest.
That's your goal, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. It's been so great, Miranda, to get to know you and your business this year. This is Miranda with Rosemary Films. For all those who are listening, she's such a talented filmmaker based in Texas. Miranda, can you kind of paint a picture of your business for the listeners, who you serve? Do you travel? All the things.
Yeah, so I'm in Texas. I've been here about 5 years now. I would say I serve the lovely market and one day trying to hit entry level, mid luxury market, but we're working on it. But yeah, so I've actually been in business full time for almost 3 years, but I've done weddings for over 10 years. I started with photography. 10 years ago, I job shadowed for a wedding photographer in Southern California, and I fell in love with it. And then weddings were becoming popular with wedding films. And so I would just watch Vimeo like all day, every day, watch all these wedding videos. So that like weddings kind of sparked my love for like filmmaking, which is kind of backwards because most people get into filmmaking for like movies and stuff like that. But I was like, nope, I want to make wedding films. So
That's so cool.
So fun.
And it's fun too to be a part of just this new wave of a career that never existed like 10 years ago, right? It's cool to be able to be like at the forefront of, something that no one ever, kind of a hobbyist. You might be a videography teacher, but you do weddings on the weekends or whatever it may be. And now, like 10 years later, this is a full-fledged career path for people.
Yeah, that's the most exciting part about it is nothing is really set in stone. Like you can kind of pave your own way through how you want to do weddings, like how much you want to do weddings, like, you're not stuck. And that's like the most exciting thing about wedding filmmaking is there's so many options.
Yes. Let's paint a picture of that really quickly. How you said you don't have to feel stuck. I think there's a lot of people that might be listening that are like, but wait, I kind of do feel stuck. Or, maybe they never did before and all of a sudden they're maybe feeling stuck in the pricing, like they feel like they've hit a plateau. Miranda, have you ever had times in your business where you felt stuck, and what kind of helped you become unstuck?
Yeah, I definitely felt like I was going with the flow of like who was booking me, and then I felt like I let that determine like my typical wedding. Like I was getting very like Texas weddings, which are great and I love those too, but also I didn't realize that there was a whole like other style or culture of like weddings happening that I could be a part of. I was just kind of like letting whoever wanted to book me dictate like what kind of weddings I wanted to do. Um, and so the first time I was associate shooting for a wedding in downtown Dallas, and it was definitely like higher end, higher budget than I had ever seen before. And that's when my eyes were kind of opened of like, oh my gosh, this is a whole new like era of the industry. I don't know how to explain it, but um, yeah. And so, but I still felt stuck in the fact that like this wasn't even my wedding, but how do I get weddings like this? Like I don't even know how you get to a place like that. Um, and so I was also kind of feeling stuck because that first wedding, I loved everything about it, except that the fact that the couple just didn't seem to care that I was there. So I felt like, okay, well, if I want to get in this kind of wedding, people aren't going to care about me or my filmmaking. And so I don't want to get into that sector of the market because luxury seems like, you know,
Stuffy or pretentious.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely had that like stigma in my head. And so I think the biggest thing that like helps change that is your knowledge of what's out there. It's kind of like traveling. Like you don't know what's out there until you go see it for yourself and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I was stuck at home this whole time and this amazing like place was out here this whole time. I could have gone and seen it." Until you like see and experience like different levels of weddings, you don't even know that they exist or how much fun they can be. And so yeah, I've definitely had my eyes open to what's possible, what kind of weddings I could be doing, and what I should strive for. So,
No, it is so true. I think that, I mean, if you look at the wedding industry like a triangle, like the vast majority of weddings fall into the bottom part of the triangle that takes up so much more space. And that means that that's the kind of content we're generally consuming. And I think we get into this world where that's all we think that exists. And all it takes is one moment, one aha moment where you're like, oh my gosh, like there's actually more to this. There's actually a tier above this that is so completely different in the way these events are produced, in the way the clients are and they like to be sold to, in the pieces that you can create for your portfolio, the experiences that these clients are creating for their guests. Like everything is so different. And probably the best part of all is that you can charge way more than you ever thought possible. I mean, you can 2, 3, 5x your prices and nobody is going to bat an eye. And so if this is your first time listening to the podcast and this is your aha moment and you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know that luxury weddings at this level existed, then just kind of a little shameless plug. Next week, Kelly and I are hosting a free 3-day workshop. It's called The Road to Luxury, and it will be taking place Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week, March 12th through the 15th. And we would love to have you there if you want to learn how you can enter the luxury market as well. And Miranda, I think you took this same workshop last year. Is that where your road started?
I think so. Yeah, that's where I learned like, you know, I love your guys' style of like teaching, and you guys give such like tangible information. It's not like vague, like, oh, here's where you want to get one day. You like guys give like the cold hard facts, and that's when I learned that like I would get so much value out of. And then I went on to do the mastermind, and so yeah.
We are no fluff educators here. I mean, obviously, like we love to like paint this beautiful vision because we've experienced it and we want others to experience it as well. But like to get down to it, like your guys' time is so valuable and we recognize that. And for those hundreds of people that have already signed up to spend 3 days with us, like we don't take that lightly. We want you to walk away with actual, tangible, like a proven strategy ahead of you to be able to tackle this 2024 year in a way that you never have before. And it doesn't matter if you've been in business anywhere from 3 years to 13 years to 23 years. Like there is so much within this workshop that, you can learn from. And so we hope that you'll join us March 12th, 13th, and 14th.
Yes. And the link to that for you to grab your free ticket will be in the show notes, but you can also go to thelevelupco.com/workshop and learn more about it there. But anyway, Miranda, back to you. So paint us a picture. Like how did that journey look for you? I mean, you only joined Mastermind 9 months ago, so it hasn't been very long since you embarked on this journey. Can you kind of walk us through what that looked like? And yeah, we want to know everything.
Yeah. So as far as like the video side of things, I knew what I was doing, but on the business side of things, I did not. Like I went full-time 2021. And I have had like side gigs and stuff like that. I've always done weddings on the side, but it was never my main income. And so having it my main stream of income, I wasn't sure how to like scale my business to a place where I felt comfortable enough to put enough money away for like retirement. I felt comfortable enough to save up for kids one day, all that stuff. It was kind of like extra fluff for me on the side. And so having it be like something you depended on, cold hard money, like, yeah, it just kind of kicked it into gear for me to learn how to scale because at the pace I was going, I just didn't want to do like 35 weddings a year. I wanted to scale back and have it be more manageable. I wanted a better like work-life balance. So yeah. And when I found your guys' course, it was like the perfect thing for me at that time to take because, I was kind of past like, oh, I know how to work a camera. I know kind of the budget level industry, but I know nothing about like the next level of weddings. And so it just fell into place perfectly for me.
Amazing. And
yeah.
the title of this episode is Cutting Out the Noise. And Miranda, before we hit record on this, you had just like such a, I don't know, it was like such an aha moment because we were like, what should we, what do you want to talk about, Miranda, and all this stuff? And you're like, well, like, I think that people need to realize like there's a lot of noise out there and you really need to find the voice that you really want to, that resonates with you and that you want to listen to. And so talk a little bit, walk the viewers or listeners, if you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast device or whatever, walk us through like what that means to you, cutting out the noise.
Yeah. I think that all the information out there, some of it is bad, but most of it isn't. It's like whatever direction you want to go. Like there are people out there teaching you how to do that. But for what I wanted, there seems to be a lot of like Facebook forums and YouTube videos and all this kind of information. And so you could hear something or watch something and be like, oh, that's really helpful, but you have no idea, or it's hard to get an idea of what that person's goals are, or like what kind of wedding they're wanting, or what they're wanting to achieve. And so you may take advice that might not be what is for you and the weddings and the life you want to live. And so just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad, but it's so important to have information and education that serves directly where you want to go, because you get there so much faster and you're way more focused, and you get quicker, much quicker, because like I said, I've been in the wedding industry 10 years, and you see some people just grow really quickly and you're like, okay, how'd they do that? And it's always been like education. And so just having that really condensed information curated towards you, where you're at in your business and what you need to do to get where you want to go, is like the most efficient thing you could do. And so it has been such a help for me to, even as I currently scroll like forums and get all sorts of opinions and stuff, to filter out, okay, does that serve me and where I want to go in my business based on what I've learned from like the course, or like what would Taylor and Kelly do kind of thing. So you really narrow down like what to kind of filter out. And it doesn't mean that there's any bad info, but it's just not for you.
Yeah, that's such an important kind of distinction to be able to discern, right? Like there's so many ways of doing things, and there's no one right way and no one wrong way, but there are ways that are a better fit for you and your personal goals and your circumstances. Like Kelly and I always like to say, we truly don't believe in one size fits all education. Like, it's not like a blanket statement thing. Like, you really have to navigate and take and mold things to you and yourself. And so I think it's so smart that you were able to figure that out and you were able to apply that immediately. And now you're going to start seeing, the fruits of that labor come to fruition in 2024 and beyond. And it's just so great. And I think you really hit the nail on the head that there's a lot of noise and everyone truly has a voice online. And it's your job. Like, if you're listening to this, it's your job to filter out the noise. It's not going to be done for you.
Yeah, it's really freeing because you can think, oh, I'm not getting the bookings I want, or, oh, they got this booking. And then, but once you know, like, your goals and your ideal client and all that, then you start to realize, like, oh, that was their ideal client and it's not my ideal client, and that's okay. And it really helps with, like, the comparison game of, like, oh, they're doing better than me, or, oh, we all get in our heads about all that stuff. But once you, like, recenter with, like, where you want to go, you're like, no, I'm on the right track, and it's just a slow and steady pace.
Yeah.
So.
And that's, I think, where transparency really opening up this, on this podcast, you'll hear that we ask people what their pricing is and what their goals are and things like that. And I think that that's so, like, freeing, as you said, Miranda, that we can have that knowledge and be able to apply it back to ourselves. Like, I'll be honest, like, we probably haven't, like, Paul and I haven't had a new wedding booking in a solid 3 months. And I was kind of getting in my head a little bit about that. I don't know if, like, you guys too get this way, but I'm like, what is going on? Like, and these budgets that are coming through are super low. And I actually took it upon myself to, like, text a few other filmmakers, like, in my local market to be like, can we get a consensus? Like, what is going on? Are you booking? Are you discounting? Like, what are we doing? How many do you have? How many do you want? And a filmmaker, he shared his prices with me, and his prices were a lot lower. And I know that we go up against each other quite often. And at first I was, like, kind of defeated by it. And I'm like, shoot, like, that's a bummer, because, like, if someone's just booking based on price and his work is beautiful too, then, like, that's going to be, a sure thing But then he said something that really changed my mindset. And he said, I have 16 weddings right now and I'd like 9 more. And I thought about that and I'm like, okay, then that makes sense, because I have 9 weddings and I only want 3 more. So the quantity that is the perfect fit for him and the what reaches his own financial goals, personal goals, whatever they are different than mine. And so I need to not feel defeated by, like, how the packages are structured and all of that, because it's not my own personal goals, hit the mic, and financial goals. And so I think that is so, like I said, having that transparency was, like, so freeing for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes it better when you can recenter in that way and stay focused on, where you're trying to go. It keeps things
totally
in perspective. You have to do that as a creative and as a filmmaker, because, you are running your own business and it's yours. And I'm all about community over competition, and I'm all about, like, sharing and, but even as creatives, we're always nitpicking. I mean, we are creative, we have to be detail oriented, and we are critics of our own films. And so at some point we have to be very critical. But that can kind of, like, turn on ourselves sometimes. I'm very much like a perfectionist, and then I just get in my head all the time. And so it's so much better when you've seen someone kind of pave the way of how things are done, and you know that you're on the right track, and you just have to, like, trust what you've been taught.
So good.
Yeah.
So Miranda, now we are in February, or March, actually. Gosh, this year is flying by. We're in March of 2024. You've made some big changes in your business. You are in the midst of your rebrand, announced your rebrand. You've gotten new headshots that are beautiful.
Yes. Got the headshots. We're working on the website and the logo, and so that should be out soon. But yeah, it's definitely a process. But I'm so glad I waited to do it after I did the mastermind, because it would have been a lot of wasted money on like a different rebrand versus like being focused on um, curating what kind of look I'm going for and knowing what is going to be more timeless, because I definitely leaned into like the boho. Not that boho's bad, but I was kind of niching myself into boho weddings, and I knew I wanted to do more than just that. And so I had very like trendy colors, and I was wearing like a hat and had pampas grass, and like I love that vibe, but I wanted to appeal to more of like a wider high scale audience and have it be more timeless. And so I'm glad we're going through this.
Yeah, so smart. And again, like everything really does circle back to your ideal client. And I think that so many people do make that mistake when it comes to their brand and how they're crafting that and how they're trying to communicate that into the world. And so it's so smart to keep that really like as the root of your decisions. And we've had several of our mastermind alumni on the podcast now over the last few months. And you may, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you may notice a similar theme. And there's a lot of rebrands going on, guys. And that's because I think one of Kelly and my favorite things to do is like get elbows deep in your business and rework it from the inside out and really hold your hand and guide you through all of these really big changes, because everything that has gotten you to this point now is not going to get you to where you want to go. And big results require big change, right? And so a lot of the times that does mean a lot of that like public facing parts of your business, like your branding. And so that's not a bad thing. That's actually such a good thing. You shouldn't be scared. It should be very, very empowering to anybody who's considering big shifts in their business. And you've just done it so beautifully. Like your headshots are beautiful and modern, and I can see who your ideal client is just through those. So we really can't wait for the unveiling of your website.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of curating, and I feel like it's really scrappy at this point, trying to push like my ideal client, because I'm pushing for the person that I want to film and the wedding I want to have. And it's been a lot of like getting rid of, you know, excess like imagery and weddings that are old. And I feel like I used to feel like I had to keep every wedding on my website and I had to post every wedding. And so it's been really freeing, but also a lot of grunt work trying to pick the best imagery to put on the front face of like website or Instagram. And I'm always changing it. Like the next thing I film that's like more my ideal client, I just keep updating. You know, it's always like a work in progress. And it just feels like it never ends. Even though I'll have a rebrand, it just feels like I'm constantly still going to be pushing whoever my ideal client is, which is kind of the goal. Like you never want to stay stagnant. You want to keep improving like who you're trying to shoot for. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that the businesses that succeed are the ones that are constantly reinventing themselves in that way. They're staying current. I can't tell you how many websites or Instagrams I've clicked onto, and their most recent work is from like 2 or 3 years ago. And it's like, oh, I know you have better content than this. Like, please put it on. Like, please keep this up to date, because this is like our marketing. This is our marketing. The same way the Super Bowl was a few weeks ago, the same way we saw all those huge companies putting millions and millions of dollars into those commercials. Like, your website and your Instagram is your marketing, and it needs to count. Every bit of content matters, and it's so smart to like have that perspective of like, okay, each wedding I shoot that's better, that's immediately getting put on my website, immediately getting pushed onto Instagram, and that's the smart way to do it.
Absolutely. So Miranda, can you kind of walk us through what your pricing used to look like before you kind of had this whole mind-blowing moment that the premier and luxury markets existed and that they were within reach to you, and now what your collections are looking like in 2024?
Yeah, so I actually went back and kind of like pulled my averages, and so 2022 is my first full year, so that was $3,200 average. 2023 I had a $4,200 average, And then 2024, I'm looking at a $6,500 average. So I feel like from last year to this year has been a huge jump. So, and I booked my first $10,000 wedding, which was so exciting. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm just shamelessly plugging your guys' like mastermind and all your education stuff, but the like very quickly after I finished that 12 weeks, I just saw immediate change, and it was like so exciting. And I know that's not always how it is, and it's always like a slow burn, but it was just amazing that like some of your guys' advice like already was put into play, and like I saw the effects of it. So it was crazy.
Okay,
Just
first of all, I have to say,
chills.
the numbers, you came prepared with the data, the cold hard truth, and I have to say I appreciate that more than you could ever know. And we're so proud of you. Like, incredible
Thank
like
you so
so
much.
well done. Your first $10,000 wedding, you know, like, I mean, did you think a year ago that was like gonna happen within the next 12 months?
No, not at all. I was like, yeah, it took me a lot to even get to that $4,000 mark. Because honestly, as when I was a bride, I couldn't afford that. And so it's weird to get out of the mindset of like, I'm not catering to me as a bride anymore. So I got to get out of that. Like, I'm not catering, I have to cater to a different person who's in a different mindset. Um, and so that was like my biggest hurdle. And then once I hit was like charging 4,000 and getting more comfortable with that number, um, then it was a little bit easier to keep going. And then once I was more educated on like what other people are charging, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could be charging that. It's like knowledge is power when you know what the normal is and what the standard is, and people are setting the bar higher. And I love to see it. Like, I love when I see people raise their prices, because I'm like, great, let's all grow together and set a new standard and get what we're worth, because we work so hard. Wedding filmmaking is like, you earn every penny of it. And so I just love to see it grow and grow.
So good. I'm so proud of you, Miranda. And for those that are listening, and if you have any sort of little doubt in your mind, a little whisper in your ear that says, well, no, that's not for you. That's great for Kelly and Taylor and Miranda, but that's just never going to happen for you. I want you to just immediately squash that, because that is like such like an intrusive thought that is so untrue. Like with where my own business started and Taylor's business started, like it really took what Miranda said, knowledge is power. And once you have that knowledge in your back pocket, it literally becomes a totally different game. You're playing a totally different ball game, right? When you were playing checkers, now you're playing chess. And so we're just so excited for you, Miranda, and all the growth that you've seen, and your first $10,000 wedding. Like, that's a big deal. And that's so, so exciting. And the road is just beginning for you.
Yeah, and once you book that first milestone, it helps you get more comfortable with it, because I feel like we definitely need to be confident moving forward with our pricing and knowing that we're worth it. And that was like the biggest, obviously that feeds into like the perfectionism and criticism of like, am I worth this? And it's helped me move forward and be like, I am worth this. So yeah, the more you hit those milestones, the more it gets easier. But sometimes I feel like I'm shaking in my boots, but it's awesome to have you guys like paving the way. I mean, you guys have paved the way already, and you're paving the way even more yourselves, which is like also inspiring to me, that you guys haven't like hit a ceiling, like you're still going. So
No, it's so true. I think that it's one of those like snowball effects, right? Like, success begets success. Like, once it begins, then it speeds up. The easier it gets, the more naturally it will come to you, the more confidence you build. And like, it just takes a few reps for it to become second nature. I mean, I remember, I think I booked my first $10,000 wedding in 2022, and it was kind of the same thing as you. Like, I was shaking in my boots, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe it. I remember my husband saying like, you're scamming people. And I was like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm worth it. But now, like, I mean, having a minimum at $13,000, right? So like that, what I was so proud of just 2 years ago, like I wouldn't even consider booking a wedding at that. And the same is going to be for you. Like, and the same like is going to be for all of our listeners. Like, as you get more comfortable with higher price points, like that now becomes like the lowest, like the bar being at the lowest. Is that like a phrase? The bar is set low. I don't know.
The base.
And then you just, yeah. And then you climb and climb and climb. And then before you know it, you'll be booking $18,000 packages thinking $10,000. Who? Like, you know? So it's really fun to think about the future that way. And it's possible if you put in the work and if you're strategic and if you believe in yourself above all else.
Yeah. So good. Well, Miranda, this has been so eye-opening, and I've had multiple like chills throughout this episode just hearing your success. And no, really, it's so cool, and it's so achievable too. Like, if all three of us ladies can be sitting here booking 5-figure weddings, anybody can do it too, right? You know, if you're listening to this, you're a photographer and you're a filmmaker, and you know that you're talented, and you know that you can position yourself into this market, but you just need the roadmap to get there, the strategy to get there. You're constantly kind of feeling stuck. Like, please, again, join us for our workshop, you know, happening next week. And this could really be the first step in your road to luxury. And it would be such an honor to be the ones to guide you and open up your eyes to this brand new business venture that you can set forth for yourself. Yeah, it's so exciting. And Miranda, if other filmmakers or photographers, those that are listening, want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Yeah, my website is rosemaryfilms.co, not .com, and same for my Instagram, rosemaryfilms.co. And yeah, this has been so much fun, and I just am so happy to be on this podcast again, full circle for me. And if anyone's listening, just know that this is like one of the best education routes you can take for wedding filmmaking specifically. It is just to the point. You get the information you need, and they don't leave anything out. They tell you the cold, hard truth. They're not afraid to step on toes. They tell you how it really is. And they just give it to you what you need. They are always there for you. And yeah, and I've been really enjoying the alumni group as well. It's just so valuable to me, and you get to ask questions, and I'm obviously still growing. I have so much that I want to still achieve. And so just having the alumni group has also been really valuable to me. So yeah, one day.
One day, probably one day before you think it's actually going to happen. It'll be faster than you think.
Yeah.
Well, Miranda, this has been so fun and so eye-opening, and we hope that the listeners loved it as much as we do. Go give her a follow, because truly her work is so beautiful, and you'll love seeing her work pop up on your newsfeed every now and then on Instagram. But yeah, we can't wait to see you again next week, same time, same place, for a new episode of the podcast. Thank you for joining us in today's conversation. Please help us reach more filmmakers and photographers like you by taking a screenshot and sharing it to social media. And don't forget to tag us at The Level Up Co.
And join us again next week, same time, same place, as we continue to level up the industry together.